wherever you are in the world. My name is Hector Minto. I'm the lead accessibility evangelist for Microsoft on accessibility. Essentially, my role is to help our regions, our colleagues, our partners, and our customers understand the investments we make in accessibility. I'm joined this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are in the world, by my colleague Rory Preddy. Good morning, Rory.
Hi, Hector. So I'm coming from South Africa. That's at the bottom of Africa, and it is a country. And from Johannesburg, it's a bright summer day today, and I'm wearing a black shirt, I'm wearing glasses, and I have achondroplasia, dwarfism, and I'm speaking to you from my home office.
And I promise you, we are not going to mention England beating South Africa in the cricket this week.
I'm 4'1". It negates any interest in sport, hey? So you can do that. I can be on your team if you want. If you want to be on your team, then that's fine.
So look, I'm going to do some quick scene setting. Before we get started on this, accessibility and disability inclusion in this digital world is going to be one of the most important topics of this century. Digital transformation, essentially everything around us is digitally transforming. But what that means is more people rely on technology for home, for education, and for work. Rory, if I can ask you to take me to the next slide. I'm having a bit of an issue accessing your slide. So I'm just going to quickly talk to you about what we call the disability divide in this space. Essentially, as society moves forward, what we hope for is greater inclusion, but what we're actually seeing is greater widening. In the same way that when we think about physical architecture and buildings, things move quickly, but it took until this century, really, last century, before people started routinely putting ramps into buildings. And you would say that globally, there are still countries in the world where people putting standard ramps into buildings so that wheelchair users can get access still doesn't happen. So what we're going to talk about today is the digital equivalent of that ramp. We know that you have to deliberately include people with disabilities into the experiences that you're creating. You cannot just assume that somebody will be able to use something. And when we talk about disability, we're increasingly widening our definition of disability. 1 in 6 of the global population. But when we start including things like mental health conditions and disabilities and the aging demographic across the world, people who are needing extra support to use technology, just for something as simple as someone's eyesight, what we're seeing is that the need to design with disability in mind is it's a must-have. What we're also seeing is that governments and essentially organizations around the world who are concerned with citizen inclusion are making sure that they're procuring accessible technology. There are standards that are being developed around the world to ensure that when people buy technology, they're buying the inclusive product, the accessible product. And Microsoft plays a big space in that. If you think about it, if people are using Outlook, Windows, Teams to access work nowadays and access employment or education, if that's not accessible, then we risk putting people out of work. And the truth is that the employment divide is worsening. So wherever we can get these statistics, and frankly, the statistics are patchy at best. People don't even record these numbers in most countries. But where we can see the data, the employment divide is worsening. So essentially, if you are disabled or you become disabled in the workplace, you lose your risk your chance of getting employment halves. It's like literally double the unemployment gap across the world. And also education gaps are increasing. People with disabilities are often remaining in education as possible, frankly. There's this inclusion happens quite often through education, but actually where we're seeing the drop-off is after education. And that's because the skills gap is widening for people with disabilities. So much of the learning that is available is inaccessible. So maybe that's also something to think about in the ideas that you're creating. Make sure you're thinking about home, employment, and education. Access to education is going to be absolutely critical for people with disabilities, particularly when we think about things like digital skills. Let's go to the next slide, please, Rory. Now, we are investing in this space, and this is part of what this campaign is all about. In May this year, we created a new set of commitments to disability inclusion. Just waiting for your slide.
We seem to have frozen a bit. I think it's you trying to and me trying to do this at the same time. Let me just
I'll stop
get
control.
out of there for a second. Yeah. There
All
we
right, I'll
go.
keep
There
talking.
we go.
So what we have essentially this year in May, we made new commitments to disability inclusion and accessibility. I'm still waiting for the slide to refresh on my side, Rory.
Oh, it has. It's got new commitments and on my
Got
side.
it. Thank you. I got it. And these focus areas also might be things for you to think about in terms of the ideas that you're coming up with. We don't just want the gimmick, the gadget, the piece of technology that is designed for a person with a disability. We also want you to be thinking about making existing technologies globally affordable. So many of the tools that people with disabilities use around the globe essentially are being sold into countries where there is a developed market for people with disabilities at high cost, designed to be funded by insurance agencies. But actually what that means is that the routine technology that includes people with disabilities is not necessarily affordable in other markets. So we want to really focus on the affordability and the mainstreaming of disability inclusion tech. We also want you to focus on talent development and skilling. There's a phrase in the disability world, which is nothing for us without us. When you design without the inclusion of people with disabilities, actually checking what you're doing is valid and that it actually works, you end up just designing the wrong product. Yeah. So when we think about talent development and employing you as partners, employing people with disabilities into your organizations to drive some of this innovation, that might be something for you to also focus on. How do you make your workplace accessible, but also how do we develop the talents of people with disabilities around the world? And then this inclusive workplace culture. How do we as Microsoft share how we're working every day to drive a more inclusive organization for our colleagues with disabilities? And how do we, again, stretch that out globally? Next slide, please, Rory. So as you come up with your ideas and your hack and your concepts, I'm still waiting for your slide to refresh, Rory, on my side. You've done it?
Yes, it says accessibility by design technology.
Okay, I'm not getting that yet. I'm still waiting for it to refresh on my side, but that's fine. There are some programs for us to take your ideas further, depending on what we create. So I want you to think about designing your idea, creating getting the knowledge and the support from this series of great webinars that we're putting forward for you. But then we also want you to know that we have an AI for Accessibility Fund globally, where we start leveraging artificial intelligence to essentially create these modern tools, these affordable modern tools, these innovative ideas. We want you to kind of engage with us and help us develop your ideas further. So this is not just an idea for a hack. We do have programs globally available at Microsoft to help drive this forward. So this session is about the nuts and bolts. The previous session was about inclusive design with thinking about this wider remit of designing around disability. Please know that whatever you create, we want to amplify. We want to find local partnerships for your idea. We want to kind of support what you're coming up with. But before we get started on that, you need to know how to create with disability in mind and what we think about when we're designing accessible products. And with that, I brought an expert with me today. Rory, you've been amazing in kind of really helping people understand what it is to constantly tackle accessibility in the products that you're building, but also how to leverage new tools as they emerge to build exciting experiences for people with disabilities. And with that, I'm going to hand over to you to take us through today's main content.
Thanks so much, Hector. We had a little bit of a connection. So Hector and I were trying to share slides and everything between the two of us. He's in UK, I'm in South Africa, like 12-hour difference. And that goes to show also the climate that we're in right now. We're all trying to make things work. I've got about 15 different devices here that I'm using to operate. I'm 4'1", so I can barely reach my laptop. And I'm a programmer, so it is important for me to be accessible, to be able to do my everyday job. And it occurred to me that a lot of other people not only have accessibility requirements when they program, but to program for accessibility. And this is all about my journey and also how you can get started for programming accessibility. So like I said in the beginning of the session, I have achondroplasia, dwarfism. I'm 4'1". And as part of my recent midlife crisis, I bought a car, a BMW 335i, and I bolted my pedals onto there. You can see those are the bolts there. And this is really prior to what Hector was alluding to the revolution of trying to do things with technology. I really made things work. So here's me lecturing at a university and standing on a chair, and here's me trying to get coffee there. You can see that I don't drink decaf, that's just poison. But I make it work. But every time I did that, I actually created something called the Hydra. The Hydra is a mythical creature that when you chop off one head, it actually grows another head. And software developers know this because when they take a bug and they find a bug in production and fix that bug, then another bug is created. So I'm here today to show you how by popping the empathy bubble, you can actually go in and slay the Hydra. So the empathy bubbles exist because every single human actually is the center of their own universe. I was doing some research recently, and it occurred to me that when the universe expands, it actually expands not from one little big bang, but it actually expands from every point. So every one actually is the center of their own universe. But as a result, we go through our day-to-day processes without being able to truly tell people how we interact with the world, though. You won't understand how it is to be a 4'1" individual. If you are, please tell me. Let's discuss some hacks, though. But by not actually understanding these difficulties, then you actually go and design systems that aren't accessible. You can see here's a wheelchair ramp, and then right at the end, they gave birth to the Hydra, and because they didn't understand that those 3 steps are completely impossible to actually go up if you are in a wheelchair. So the plan today, we're going to talk about define accessibility, what it is and what it isn't. We're going to look at motivators, both stick and carrot, to see exactly how you can motivate yourself and your customers and your organizations. We're going to set interim milestones with DevOps and the standard SDLC system delivery lifecycle. We're going to look at tools, open source tools that Microsoft provides with our partners, and then we're going to measure, improve, and automate and show you processes to actually go and test these out. So first, what is accessibility? Now, accessibility, and this is from Microsoft's definition, is the design and products, services, environment so that everyone, including people with disabilities, can fully experience them. It's not to design, and like what Hector alluded to before, for disabilities, because that never works. That doesn't work because then you narrow it down so only the people with disabilities can use your system. It's designed so everyone can. So once you do that and you get into that mind frame, then you really start to actually increase your sense of innovation. So product design, productivity, and innovation. We've got many case studies that show you that. Because you also change your mindset from instead of coding for disability, you code for accessibility. And disability is not a personal health condition. It's a mismatched human interaction. You don't go to the doctor and you say, I'm not feeling too good, and he goes, oh, I think you've got the disability. As part of my midlife crisis, I bought one of those BMI scales. I put my weight at the time, 65 kilos. I'm 50 kilos now. Ask me how I did keto. And I jumped on there and I put my height 120 centimeters and my weight 65 kilos, and had a crawling baby and a tall adult, and I put the baby there because I'm not that tall. And then I jumped on and did it's a little calculation, and it called me terrible names, actually terrible, like health problem names. And I thought to myself, I feel disabled. And that interaction made me feel disabled. And that's really what we don't want to do. We wanted to have a scale that actually said, let me put, whether you're a baby or an adult, but let me actually put your age there so you can actually work out, or a health condition so you can actually work out this is a accessible issue. And to do that, also, we need to understand accessibility. So there are 4 main, we're not going to go down too much into the detail, but the Web Center for Accessibility Guidelines defines 4 main accessibility guidelines. So perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. So perceivable is, can you see it? Is visual impairment. And so I've got, you can see there, there's a little bit of a blue haze there, but I've got failing eyesight. I'm 42 years old, and my one eye is, the retina is, they say to me it's a little bit wonky. But I've got some nice Armani glasses here, and I can engage with my systems. Operable, can you use it? You can see there I'm using a Logitech Spotlight to actually be able to reach my screen instead of being able to use the touchpad there. And then I can use my screen and use that nice little laser pointer. But when last did you actually take a website and go navigate with your keyboard and be able to do that? It needs to be operable, your systems. Understandable? Can you understand it? Now, if I actually go in and I'd go with my laser pointer, it actually might upset people who are in autism, neurodiverse, or ADHD, because it's making it less understandable. And the WCAG actually recently included neurodiversity into that sphere. So you need to make it understandable and be able to really understand your personas that you can use your system. We're going to look at personas a little bit later in the session, and you can see some examples. And then finally, robust. It won't break future technologies. Remember responsive design? You got your phone and you're going to turn it from portrait to landscape. Well, that was an old kind of mechanism to actually bring in accessibility, because when you went from portrait to landscape and vice versa, you won't break technology, your technology. And that really is a fundamental principle for accessibility, that if you're going to make a change, don't break it. Like, for example, if you're going to change the tab stops on your web page, and you're not going to maintain that perfectly, don't do it, because then if you make one tab stop change, it'll stop people from being able to navigate. We're going to see how to test that a little bit later. Next, motivators. So we've got two motivators. We've got stick and carrot. Now, the stick is the legislation for the US 21st Century Integrated Digital Experience Act and the EU Parliament Directive on Digital Accessibility that says by this year, 2021, you have to be WCAG 2.1 compliant, AA compliancy. Else, like Canada does, you get, and these are civil-facing government websites, $100,000 fine per day. Remember GDPR? Remember, do you agree to share your data and pop. They ruined the internet for everyone. But now this is bigger than that, though, because they're going to shut down organizations. But I like to think that it's rather the altruistic, the carrot, and best summed up by Bill Gates' quote, "For most of human history, we put our innovative capacity into improving the quantity of life. More, supersize it. Because we're living longer, our focus is starting to shift towards improving the quality of life." Now, to understand quality of life, you need to be able to pop that bubble. Now, to be able to pop that bubble, you need to become aware of others' difficulties. Then, instead of having the stick, you can go from pity to sympathy to empathy, and then the carrot, really, compassion. Now, you can do that easily. The UK government has all of these persona spectrums. So introducing Ashley. So Ashley is a 24-year-old arts graduate with administrative assistant. She's severely sight impaired, uses a screen reader. Now, you take these personas and you run persona labs. So you take the bubble that you are used to and you become those bubbles. You can go to alphagov.github.io/accessibility-personas, and they have all of these personas. They have Ashley and all of these, and then you become Ashley, and you take your laptop on your system and you test out exactly what Ashley did, and it gives you mechanisms in the site on how to go about doing that. So that's the first step on how to pop the empathy bubble to become more compassionate around that, to slay the hydra. The next is to, once you understand that you're excluding people, is to recognize that exclusion. Maybe you don't cater for Ashley. You'd run those persona labs, but Ashley also, because she's severely sight impaired, she might be in the same persona spectrum as the silver generation, those people who are over 70 with failing eyesight, or me, as I wear glasses. So you want to solve for one to extend to many, to extend out that innovation to be able to cater for everyone and to be accessible. And then learn from diversity, understand the personas you're not including, and then change your process to be able to do that. Let's take another example. So here's a persona spectrum with one arm and amputee, and that is in the same spectrum as an arm injury, maybe a motorcycle accident, or a new parent. And I know what you're saying. New parents aren't really, they don't have accessible requirements. I've got 2 kids, and you're nestling a newborn there. You physically, spiritually, financially, mentally, you have accessible needs. But if you go to your customers and your stakeholders, you say, I want to cater for the amputee, they'll say, yeah, no, the US Center for Statistics only has 26,000 people who are amputees. But when you take the temporary accessible needs, 13 million, and then also the situational accessible, then you have 21 million. Now, when we look at people who have accessibility requirements in the world, there's 1 billion people. You take friends, families, and people who are both spiritually, mentally, and financially involved in those, taking care of those people, it's 3 billion people. So when you have the right measure and mix of persona spectrums, you code for everyone. And that's really what these persona spectrums are showing you. And then you take those personas and then you superimpose them over your journey. So here's a ticketing scenario I did for Emirates in IATA conference in Dubai. And you start off with your registration, your navigation, and your checkout. So you register there, you log in, you add your ticket to your cart, and then you check out, and then you do a little survey that some people disgruntledly do it, and with your experience of the experience. Then you superimpose it there with your persona spectrum, and you can see responsive design on site landing, capture on registration, accessibility help desk, single sign-on on login, callback help, voice search, SMS and email, one button access, and then AI adjustment. They say, did we meet your requirements? If not, change the journey. You actually go in and change the process, but you can only do that if you actually are understanding milestones, the next session. Now, you can't change the process, you can't change the journey if you give birth to the Hydra right at the end. You can see there's accessibility. You ship the project and you give birth to the Hydra, and you can't actually fix all of those bugs. And you want to do the sprint and scrum with your backlog and really do that. So we have a huge movement now with shift left. So shift left takes the large investment that you typically have and creates small investment in testing, coding, design, and backlog. And it allows you to create your SDLC with an agile kind of flair to it. So on the UX research, you think about accessibility. In the wireframe, accessibility, product backlog, and then sprint, rinse and repeat, accessibility. And the shippable project, notice there, where's the Hydra? It is dead. And you do that with tools. And I'm going to show you some really easy tools to get started here. So first of all, the best and the gold standard in the industry, Accessibility Insights. You can go in right now to accessibilityinsights.io, and we have all freely available tools there that I use every day. I actually use these tools. I'm a Java advocate in my day job, and I take these tools and I use Accessibility Insights. Every time I create a Microsoft Docs or Learn material, I push it through to GitHub Actions, and it goes and checks with the Accessibility Insights GitHub action whether I am being accessible. And you've got the GitHub action there. You've got also a DevOps action, but you can also check your Windows apps, your Android apps, and also my favorite, Insights for Web, which I'm going to do a little demo there. And it's both available in Chrome and Edge extensions that allow you to actually go in and check, are you WCAG compliant? It gives you a full accessibility check, or you can do a quick 2-minute check there to actually check that it will run through your entire system there. And then once you have that, the same Accessibility Insights, you can use the engine that our partner provides us, DQ Labs, in your Maven, your NuGet, your NPM tester. You can see there, I've got DQ Labs, Axe-Core Maven there, and you can access that on DQ Labs, Axe-Core Maven HTML. And then I've run this test here, and I've got a test report of all of my HTML files, and I've got all my tests there, and I can say, yes, the Hydra is dead, and I can constantly do that in my sprints to be able to do that. And here's also the accessibility actions there, and you can get those checks there, and it is pretty easy. Now, if you want to use the GitHub actions there, you can go to Accessibility Insights action, and it's pretty simple to actually check up and get started with that. So once you have that, what happens if you don't have the ability to use an agile mechanism? So we have the ability, and we have cognitive services that you can bolt on right at the end that allow you to be WCAG compliant. So introducing Immersive Reader. So on Microsoft Teams that we're doing the broadcast right now, you can go into the chat and you can switch on Immersive Reader on OneNote and Word, but we also have this as an Azure cognitive service. So you can actually take any website or any app and plug this through in your programming to be able to do that. And we're seeing a lot of clients that are doing that. They can't change the underlying HTML. It's too much investment because the Hydra is born. But they create a little button there. I'm going to demo it a little bit later. And you click on the button and it creates a WCAG compliance experience. And it gives you the ability to just click on there and you can go Immersive Reader, and it'll give you a immersive WCAG experience there. And what does it give you? It gives you the ability to look at language, translate. Had a peanut. I was teaching my kid how to actually eat peanuts, and I think I've got one in the stuck in my throat. You can translate up to 60 languages, but this is an old slide. You can do 100 languages now, and pronunciation, syllables, and pictures. You also need to actually take your PowerPoint devices and your Word devices, and then go looking at an image caption. Now, we recently won the the Facebook No Caps challenge, and that was trying to actually find AI that was cleverer than humans at captioning images, and we won. We did it better than a human. And in this PowerPoint presentation right now, watch this here. So if I go to right in the beginning of my PowerPoint presentation right here, and I click on the person on a Braille keyboard, and I right click there. I want to see, wait a second, that is someone on a keyboard. I don't want to say what they're typing or anything like that. I don't want to overwhelm the person who might be looking at it. So I'm going to edit the alt text. I'm going to delete the other generate there. And then you can go generate a description for me. And it uses computer vision with that No Caps challenge AI there to actually generate it there. But you can do that for all your images. And you can just scale through all of your images and say, this is my image description that I want to actually go through. So the next bit here, I've showed you computer vision. I'm going to give you a demo. So let's go into the demo. So I've got Chrome, the browser. Now I know what you're thinking. Rory, you're a Java developer on a Mac with Chrome working for Microsoft. The world is just open right now, and it is a great way to partner with everyone to empower every organization. The irony is not lost on me. So I've got a little site here, and we can go to that site there. And this is the City Light site, and this is the W3. Oh, let's go back into there. There we go. And here, this is before and after demonstration for the WCAG 2.0 guidelines. You can see here, he has an inaccessible website and he has an accessible website. Now, the inaccessible one looks exactly the same as the accessible one, if I click on the accessible one, but they've done horrible HTML stuff on the inaccessible, to make it not be able to actually be read by screen readers or to assistive devices. So if I look at the tags here for the HTML, if I go inspect here, you see that there's BR tags, not list item tags. So the screen reader software won't even know what is going on there. Also in the inaccessible, if I tab through there, it just stops completely. But the accessible website here, I can tab through it and navigate it pretty nicely. The image tags also in the inaccessible, they're not actually tagged there. So screen reader software won't actually know. You can see it just says image. So how do I check this? How do I fix this? Where do I start? You start with just understanding the brevity, the broadness of the errors you have, and then you start going through and fixing one by one. So you can go into your Chrome extensions or your Edge extensions, and you can see there I've got Accessibility Insights for Web that I've installed. And now I can actually go in and click on tab stops, or I can switch off color. And I've got a lot of settings there. I can switch on headings, and it will go through a lot of landmarks. And the nice thing about this with the tab stops, you can see here on the inaccessible side, let's go to the accessible. I can actually tab stop all the way through and see, can I navigate through this? I can tab stop it through there. And you can see now I can actually check, am I able to tab stop? Whereas before with the inaccessible one, let's go back there, in the inaccessible one with the tab stops, and remember this is the principle of navigable, and if I tab stop through the inaccessible, it just stops there. So this is one part of it, but I want to check all of the problems in one go. So I'm going to just refresh there on the inaccessible side. Now I can go into my Chrome plugin there, and I can go into, if I wanted to check my assessment, I can, but I want to go fast pass. Now this checks 25% of the majority of the issues. So I click on fast pass, and it gives me, wow, there's 44 errors here. There's color contrast is wrong, because 1 out of 20 men are actually colorblind. It doesn't have a language identifier. The alt tags are incorrect here, and I can click through each one of those and get more information straight to the WCAG settings for each one of those and how to fix it. And then I can actually go in and I can see a visual representation of each one of those. I can see that the image that is over here is doesn't have an alternative text. I can inspect the HTML, copy the failure details, but I can file the issue directly to GitHub. So that's one way to get a really quick view of how you can do this. And this is available for Android, for Windows, for web. And this is the same engine that runs in the DevOps processes. So you can go in and create a rules engine for this. Now, if you want to go into and create a full assessment, you can actually go in there and you can go assessment. And this is a full WCAG 2.1 compliance AA. And you can go into automated checks, keyboard, focus, landmarks, headings, repetitive content, links, native widgets, images. It goes through everything there. And the nice thing is it actually tells you, like for captioning, exactly how to fix it and how to fix it and what are the problems and each section. You can also export the results, save the assessment, and you can start over once for each page though. So this is a great way to actually check for all of those. So you can take this and then you chuck it into your little GitHub action here. So if I go to github.com and I've got this running here, Rory P, and I want X Maven. Now I've taken this here and I've run this into a GitHub Actions here. And you can see there, I'm running it CI/CD with Maven constantly, and you can use this with NPM or any of your sections. You can go into the build, and it'll run the build and run tests here, and run the Maven test here, and then it will report back. You can see right in there, it's run all of those tests, and it's run 42 different tests, and it runs Chromie in the browser to actually check the page in real life. So you can see the Chrome driver, and then it has your test reports and gives you a nice view of, yes, everything is running. So you can run this in GitHub Actions, you can run this in Azure DevOps, and then finally, I wanted to show you Immersive Reader. So if I go into my portal, my Azure portal. So in my Azure portal, I've set up an Immersive Reader object, and it's cost me 2 cents. I've been running this now for 3 years. It's cost me 2 cents to do possibly about 200 different demos and run this nearly daily. And the Immersive Reader will allow you to give a token, and you can start creating that button on any of your systems there. So if I go into, let me just, Immersive Readers, you see here's my Immersive Reader here, and to prove you to the cost there, you can actually see that I've got the cost analysis here, and it is like 2 cents per million transactions. What do you mean by transaction? So it's a character. If you have a character you're going to translate, then it is a transaction, and it's 2 cents per million transaction. You can see there are 5 US cents for the entire month that I've run this. Now, I've got this running there, and I took the actual process and I connected it with a Java project, a little Java project running on Tomcat. And that basically has a little HTML page there saying, Immersive Reader is a tool that implements proven technologies to improve reading comprehension. And it goes through all of that, and it also includes some other languages there with the language tag. Now, I've taken this, I've added the ability to connect a token to this. You can see there, get token, and it will then create a little page there with a button. There's a button right at the top there to say, there we go, button class Immersive Reader. You click on the button, and then you should have an immersive experience. So I'm going to go and show you, I've deployed it to a Tomcat instance on an Azure app service. So if I go into app services here, I've got my Tomcat instance here. Now I should be able to click through and get that HTML page and have a immersive experience there. So let's go into here and let's go into there. Now I want to translate this into a language. Let's go Gaelic, because I know that Hector is from the UK. So I've got about immersive experience reader, and I can click on that. Let me make this a little bit loud here. Now it's going to create an immersive experience for me. WCAG 2.1 compliant. You can see there, it's got all of the text there, and I can click and understand each word, and it's even got a picture dictionary for tool there, and I can change the font size, or I can go in and click on the grammar options there, and also I can create an immersive experience, like a Kindle experience there, and also I can change the language. Let's go see if it has Gaelic. I think Gaelic is no, it's not. Let's go Welsh. Yes, Welsh. That's a beautiful sounding language. I think it is, yes, Welsh. I'm going to take the whole document there to Welsh, and it's got Spanish and French and everything like that. Now I want it into a female voice, standard speed. Now I'm going to play it here, and hopefully you can all hear this. Did you guys hear that? Yes. Okay, great. And so you can get all of that experience, and you can translate it. Now, I've got innovation because I wasn't catering for all these language features, but because I was catering for accessibility and making this accessible experience, I'm now being able to actually handle, with my little button there, any language in any process without having any type of change and giving birth to the Hydra. So that's everything that I wanted to show you, Hector. I'm on time, and we can take open for QAs. And the last thing I want to give you, and I'm going to switch on the video again for Hector because it was having some bandwidth issues here. Turn on incoming video. And we've got some links here that we've got. And we've got play from current slide. So first of all, thank you so much for coming to the session. And we've got how do you do empathy, and we show you there with the accessibility persona spectrums on how to broaden your outlook to be accessible, how to shift left using DevOps processes, automate with AI, with immersive reader, with computer vision, and so many other services that I didn't have time today to show you, but get the badge. Now, I promised Hector and Jenny and Donna that I was going to move the needle when it came to accessibility fundamentals. Get the badge, tweet it out, be proud of it, go to aka.ms/accessibility-fundamentals, and you get the nice badge there. And this is a Microsoft Learn path that allows you to be able to everything that I've said today on getting some hands-on experience with that. Review my session on aka.ms/acc-fb. Thank you so much, and back to you, Hector.
I think you get faster every time, Rory.
I'm getting good
Thanks
at
for
it.
fitting.
I'm getting good.
Thanks for fitting so much in. I think what's interesting here, as I kind of reflect on what you've been talking about, there's a couple of options. There are two different parts here within driving around accessibility. There's the inclusive design that we talked in the last session. Then you started with the rigor. Okay, so if you think about the kind of the legal requirements of technology today, some of those nuts and bolts of, are images described for people who cannot see? Yeah. Are the tab stops working in an order so that somebody with a physical disability can access this product in a meaningful way? These are what I would call the rigor topics within accessibility. They're the kind of, please don't ship a product that doesn't have that mechanics built into it. Think of it like the ramp. But what you've really showed at the end with the immersive reader is that you can also add innovation. Yeah, you can start to think differently about the product you're building. So that's where we're going. Honestly, that's where we're going with Windows right now. Windows 11 got released a few weeks ago, and we now have voice typing built into it in multiple languages: Finnish, Danish, Dutch, Hindi. You can now control a Windows device with your voice. Type in with auto punctuation. Like, no lawmaker is saying we have to create products that do that. Yeah, we've been on a journey with our products where I would say for almost like 20 years we were working on the functional legal requirement on disability inclusion. But since we've connected to the cloud, since we've got AI, suddenly, honestly, the disability community and innovators in this space are now looking at it and going, let's build exciting products. Let's not just build legal products. Let's build products that really get people to kind of think about how they use the products. When you go into any kind of street in the world now, you'll see people who are voice dictating their messages to each other. Yeah. So if they're from WhatsApp or whatever it might be, okay. 20 years ago, people, I'll say 15 years ago maybe, when text was the only option, people who had lower than functional levels of literacy would literally not been able to do that. And those people wouldn't have bought phones, right? Or wouldn't have bought smartphones, certainly. They'd have stuck with their old 6310s, right? Go on.
So predictive text, when I used to give this demo a long time ago, before even tech was this savvy, and I used to say to them, if you want to know what the first accessible tech that you used, it was predictive text. So being able to take an SMS and being able to do that, and that really was a game changer for a lot of people. And that came about because you only had one finger or anything like that, and the world evolved to that. But now we're all stuck behind the laptop, around the world, and we need this accessible tech. We've got cars that can drive itself, and the accessible tech is becoming more noticeable. And I agree with you completely that we're now at the forefront of technology. But as we do that, the divide also just broadens. It broadens though, because if I switch off my camera, you won't know that I have accessible needs. I will have to tell you, and that's why I started in the beginning to tell you that I have dwarfism and I have achondroplasia. Because if I switch off my camera and I don't want to be shown, then what happens is that we all become a digital singularity. And what is important now is for us to like get that badge that I showed you there with accessibility fundamentals, and being able to look at this now as something that is intrinsically part and parcel of our lives. We are accessible in what we do, because if not, we're going to become a digital 1 and a 0 and 1 somewhere else that doesn't say, listen, I need these accessibles. And to be an ally and to also be a tech user, you need to be vocal. And a lot of times, and I tell my kids, they go, why don't you dye your hair like, all of the other advocates? I go, I'm already kind of like, I look different around there. I don't have to walk through a shopping center with dyed hair. People already kind of see that I'm different though. But what I didn't realize is that a lot of people don't realize I'm 4'1", and I can't reach my laptop. And so I have to explain to them that many times. And we've noticed that a lot of times with color blindness and accessibility issues that people wouldn't really necessarily put in the same persona spectrum as maybe wheelchair. But color blindness is a huge issue. Dyslexia, autism, neurodiversity is a huge issue, especially if you're in a computer every single day and you're programming for systems though. And WCAG 2.1 only recently included that though. So I'm very excited for the next evolution of WCAG 2.1, and I'm very excited that Microsoft is catering for that.
Let me say though, so we look at rigor as one topic and innovation and delight as the second topic. Like if you look at when I show people that you can have word prediction on your keyboard in Windows, you literally see that jaw drop moment. They're like, I thought this was just a touchscreen thing, right? There's that delight, that they suddenly see it's really going to help me spell, and it means that I get exactly what I get on my phone on my PC. Okay, so what I want to just get across to people listening is there's a rigor aspect. If you're building any technology, you need to make it accessible. So if you're building an event platform, a retail app, whatever it might be, make it accessible. And what Rory has shown you here is some of the testing tools, the rigor, that you can build into your processes to start making every product accessible. We are not just here to talk about innovative assistive technology. Whatever technology you're building in the world, whether you're working in retail, finance, in health, your product will win, if you go out saying we've made it accessible. You will sell more of that product because somewhere somebody is caring about that and increasingly starting to care about that. So let's park rigor for a moment. You don't get allowed to ship non-accessible product. Think of it like that, okay? The second bit is delight. Now, if you are just building Me Too products, as in, our competitors did this, we're going to build an equivalent, right? You're going to build your Me Too product. If you bring in inclusive design from the last webinar, if you bring in cognitive services, new ways of interacting, I think you mentioned it earlier, Rory, voice search, translation, accommodations using cloud services built into your product that suddenly make your product even better.
It costs 2 cents for 3 years.
You win. Let me tell you an example. I was with my French colleagues recently, and my French colleagues always present their slides to me in French. And I love it. I love that they do that to me because I present all my slides in English to them, right? Okay, so it's like get me back. And I sit there, and my French is okay. I've got schoolboy French is how I would describe it. Okay, but I said to them, I said, well, hang on a minute, can you just upload your slides into Teams for me, because then I can translate them? And they're like, what? No way. So what we did is we built Teams. It's an amazing platform. We're on it right now. It's got a fantastic usability. It's got great video quality. And there's how we compete with our competitors normally on it. When we include, it does PowerPoint translation. It does speech-to-text subtitles using AI. It's got the immersive reader so that somebody who's dyslexic can also access the chat. We are building a product that literally delights an extra 16% of people who use our product. The rigor, does it work for people who are blind? Can a keyboard user navigate their way around Teams? 100%. When it gets to, are you doing added extras that mean that when you go out and sell that product, you're actually selling even more usability, even more great things? This blurred background that's around me right now, Rory, was designed by a deaf developer at Microsoft to get lip reading going. It was easier to jump between it. And now people think we put it in for security and privacy, right? But it came from disability. This innovation came from hacking. So as you think about your hack and what you're trying to do, and honestly, if you want to ask any questions in the chat or come off and ask us questions, just come come off mute and speak, please just put your hand up and we'll unmute you. But what I want, and I thank you for your time, Rory. What we want to do is say, whatever you're doing, build it accessible and get confident on it and learn more. Take that accessibility fundamentals badge and learn those personas and really start designing great tools. Secondly, think about your, just whatever you're doing, whatever product you're creating, and innovate through a lens of disability. Thirdly, if you're calling in from a part of the world where getting access to tools for assistive technology, so screen readers, captioning tools, physical disability access tools, peripherals designed for people with disabilities to access today's technology. If you're looking at it and thinking, well, this is unaffordable in some of our markets, and we think we can do better and design local offers on existing assistive technology, get in touch with us. Yeah, let us know about what you're trying to, what you want, what impact you want to have. Microsoft really wants to tell these stories. When you look at the work that we do on sustainability, when you look at the work that we do on justice and electoral reform, when you look at the work we do on accessibility, it all feeds into how people trust Microsoft and understand that we want to create social value. So you as our partners are our scale. You are the people who allow us to say, here's our set of principles, accessibility being a strong principle at Microsoft, but actually we want you to reach out further and drive even more impact, and we want to tell your stories. So with that, I am going to stop us for today. Unless there are any questions. Gabriella, have you got anything you want to say to close us off?
Yes, I just wanted to continue in the sharing of resources. I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen for a moment here. 1 second. So here are some really helpful resources that can help you in continuing your learning journey. And in closing, we invite all our partners to join us to build for 2030. We have massive challenges ahead, and also a massive opportunity to use all of our expertise, regardless of our role, to drive collective action, innovation, and impact. Here's a summary of all the key resources related to the overall Build for 2030 initiative. And I also just wanted to say thank you, Hector, and thank you, Rory, for providing this insight into coding for accessibility and helping our partner ecosystem learn how they can create a more inclusive products that can really tap into the inclusive economic opportunity. So thank you both.
Thanks, Gabriella. Thanks, Rory. Good to partner with you again.
Thank you. Thanks, Hector. Thanks, Gabriella.